Welcome to the very first episode of The Michigan Left. My name is Andrew George, and I am your host, and this is your new source for all things progressive right here in Michigan. I'm absolutely thrilled to be taking on this new endeavor. It's something I'm obviously very passionate about. We're hoping to bring real progressive change to Michigan, especially in our rural communities. We're going to be covering some great progressive stories all over Michigan, including some local stories, statewide stories, and even some national stories. We hope to have guests on every episode. For the time being, these guests will have to be virtual as we are in the middle of the COVID pandemic still. Once the pandemic has receded and we hopefully go back to normal, we hope to have guests actually in the studio on the show. So for today, we have special guests Zahra, Abbas, and Mike McCurdy from the MDP Cannabis Caucus. They're going to be talking to us about the case of Michael Thompson, a man who is currently serving a barbaric prison sentence here in Michigan for selling marijuana, a plant many of us view completely differently today. Even our laws have changed regarding marijuana. First, we're going to dive into some statewide updates, including the election certification controversy. Then we're going to meet our guests. Then we're going to touch on a couple national stories. So without further ado, this is the Michigan Left. First up, some statewide news. On Monday, the Michigan State Board of Canvassers did vote to certify the Michigan election results. Well, that's great news. There was one abstention, Norm Schinkel, and I find this pretty petty. He did abstain and cited lack of Republican representation at the polls. But make no mistake, from the start here, this was pure racism. There were even comments about certifying all of Wayne County except for Detroit. All of us know that Detroit is the most heavily populated with African Americans out of any of the municipalities in Wayne County. So in my opinion, and in many other people's opinions, this was a clear attempt to disenfranchise African American voters. And this set a precedent. One county held up an entire national election. And it almost overturned a fair and free election, something, America was built on. So it's taught us a lot, I think, in my opinion. We need to fill those gaps, fix those problems. On the bright side, it seems as though Donald Trump is planning to concede, though as of this recording, he has not conceded yet. He has instructed his team to start the transition process with President-elect Joe Biden. So that is a good sign. But not before he invited, our Michigan legislators here to the White House and even made contact with our Board of Canvassers, or the Wayne County Board of Canvassers. This was a clear attempt to overthrow a fair process. So it looks like we're rounding the end of that nightmare, and I'm happy to say so. So next up, we're going to talk about marijuana in Michigan. Michigan voted in 2018 to legalize marijuana. Still, there were a lot of gaps and unanswered questions, and many of us wondered about prisoners that were still languishing in Michigan prisons over marijuana-related offenses. Will there be commutations? One of those cases is the case of Michael Thompson. He is currently serving a 40 to 60 year prison sentence over selling marijuana. A lot of other people are still serving these long prison sentences for the same reason. And we know now that we have different views on marijuana. We even have different laws on marijuana. So joining me today is Zahra, Abbas, and Mike McCurdy, the vice chair and chair of the Michigan Democratic Party Cannabis Caucus. Thank you, Zahra and Mike, for joining us on our very first episode, our very first guest. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you so much for having us, George.
Yeah, thank you for having us here.
No problem. So we'll jump right in. I've already told the viewers a little bit about the case of Michael Thompson, serving a long prison sentence over marijuana. It's very concerning. What more can you tell us about the case of Michael Thompson?
So, I mean, to start off, one of the first things Mike and I wanted to do when we got our positions on the caucus was to highlight some of the people who were either still in prison or serving a sentence for cannabis, and especially with nonviolent offenses. So one of the first things we decided to do was write a letter to the Attorney General and the governor, and we highlighted Michael's case because his case was something we knew about and other people had been or had written or said something about. So with our letter to the Attorney General, we asked for a meeting with her, which we got. And during that meeting, we talked a little bit more about Michael, which she had not heard of. And from there, she wrote a letter to the governor asking for his release. And Mike, is there anything else you want to add?
Well, yeah. So Michael just had a hearing before the parole board, which is a hearing we've been waiting for. Basically, the governor cannot commute Michael's sentence until he has had that hearing. That hearing is next. It was before a partial parole board. Basically the transcript from that hearing has to go before the full parole board next, and we're hoping and expecting that to happen on December 11th. At that point, we're hoping the parole board will issue a recommendation in favor of Michael Thompson's commutation. If not, honestly, it largely doesn't matter, because once they've had the hearing, it goes before Governor Whitmer. And it's regardless of what they decide at that hearing, it is going to be 100% in the hands of Gretchen Whitmer. Gretchen Whitmer promised during her campaign to back calls for amnesty, to back commutation of marijuana sentences. So far, she hasn't given amnesty to anyone or commuted any sentences. So we really expect and hope this is going to be the first step in her fulfilling.
Awesome, thanks. That's incredible to hear what you guys are doing for Michael Thompson. Obviously, when marijuana became legalized in 2018 here in Michigan, we all had very high hopes for some amnesty for some of our prisoners. And I definitely think Michael Thompson deserves that amnesty. What's in the future for the Cannabis Caucus in Michael Thompson's case? Are you guys still staying involved with the case? What's next?
That major campaign promise.
That major campaign promise. Okay,
so
go ahead.
So Michael's hearing is on the 11th. Immediately following that hearing, we will be starting a campaign to encourage Gretchen Whitmer to commute the sentence. And there'll be press releases going out both from the Cannabis Caucus and the coalition we're working with, which includes the Last Prisoner Project and the Redemption Foundation. So we've got a pretty vast network that we're going to be pushing that message through to really try to get people calling Whitmer, sending Whitmer emails. We don't want to take anything for granted, and we want to keep pushing full steam ahead until we get that commutation.
Yeah, and once we get close to that, that's when we'll start on our social media. You guys can look out for the call to action to call the governor and whatever else we need to keep highlighting Michael's case and get him released.
So that was the very next question. Thank you, Zahra. Was what can everyone else, the normal person, do to help Michael Thompson's case? Where can they go to learn more? Where can they go to get more involved?
So one of the things is to check out the Cannabis Caucus of the MDP page, because we do post on there anytime we have a call to action. The Last Prisoner Project is also doing a lot of is also posting about it so people can stay informed. And like I said, once we get closer to his hearing, we can start putting out what we need the people to do to further highlight the need for his release and Um, what other? I'm trying to remember what else, Mike.
Well, so it depends. You know, we're going to need very short term. Basically, as soon as Michael hearing's over, which we really hope is going to be December 11th, it could get delayed. These things aren't under our control, obviously. But we're at that point, we're going to immediately need some very simple things: emailing Governor Whitmer and calling her office. And so those things we'll be putting out calls to action on our email list and our social media. If people want to stay involved, joining the Cannabis Caucus of the Michigan Democratic Party will make it so that you are on part of our membership. You can come to, we meet bi-weekly, and that will be a way for people who wish to be sustained in the amnesty efforts and the expungement efforts, ongoing efforts to elect progressive politicians, ongoing efforts to promote a cannabis-friendly agenda within the Democratic Party.
Fantastic. So that somewhat answers my last question, and that is, what else is the Cannabis Caucus up to right now?
Yeah, so a lot of what Mike said, just we are continuously working on or trying to highlight more of the expungements and what needs to be done. We meet, once again, as Mike said, we meet bi-weekly. We're doing all our meetings via Zoom. Just to join the caucus, you do need to be registered with the Michigan Democratic Party since we are under them. So for people who want to know how to join and become more involved, register with the MDP and you can start checking out, you can either message or our Facebook page. So if you have any questions to become more involved. And then hopefully once the situation improves and we can start gathering, we'll be able to have either in-person meetings or just some events to get to know more of like the different communities. And hopefully we'll be able to start helping more communities get cannabis policies in their cities and things like that, and more progressive policies out there on cannabis and hopefully get it like more, get more studies done on it and more people aware of what they can use it for and how to use it.
Fantastic. Thank you both for joining us, being our first guest on the show again. I am a huge advocate for marijuana in Michigan. I've worked in multiple municipalities myself to pass meaningful marijuana legislation. I've actually worked in all sorts of states to pass meaningful marijuana legislation. So I am incredibly grateful for what you both do for the cause. And again, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Andrew. Just one more thing before we get out. I just want to be clear that Michael Thompson's case is the tip of the iceberg. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of marijuana prisoners locked up in Michigan. And we've got another case that's next in line, Rudy Gammo, who was locked up for running a medical marijuana dispensary out of Detroit, currently serving a 5-year prison term. And he's going to be filing for his commutation here in the next month or so. So we're going to be promoting his case and standing with him. We've helped fundraise for his family as well. And after that, we've got a list of 2,000 people, approximately 2,000 people that we got from the Attorney General's office who have been cooperating with us, of people who are serving time who have marijuana on their records. It's really difficult to parse because of how they do the records, who's actually serving time specifically for marijuana. So we're going to have to comb through those records. We're going to be meeting with the AG office soon. We're hoping they're going to help us comb through those records to find people who we can help promote through the Last Prisoner Project. We can help file their paperwork. We've got lawyers working with us. We can help people get through the expungement process. So we're just getting started.
So to be clear, you are stating that the Attorney General Dana Nessle's office is working with you guys well?
Yes, at this stage, we're very happy with the progress we've made. She has, like I said, they did get a list of us of almost 2,000 prisoners from the MDOC, which was quite a labor-intensive project for the MDOC. I don't think it's something they would have done for us, but they did do it for the Attorney General's office, and she got that for us. And we're actually in the process of scheduling a meeting with her right now with some of the lawyers we're working with the Last Prisoner Project, so we can hopefully further parse down that list. And so far, cooperation is fabulous.
Yeah, and I mean, we've had good cooperation from the Attorney General. I mean, that's how we were able to highlight some of Michael Thompson's case, was because she wrote a letter to the governor regarding his case.
Yeah, and on that, at the hearing, at Michael's hearing, the parole board said that it was truly, I mean, they were astonished to have a letter from the Attorney General in support of a commutation. They said they'd never seen anything like it and didn't really expect to see anything like it again. We hope they're wrong about that second part, because we hope to get more of those letters.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm not afraid to give mad props to our Attorney General, Dana Nessel. Again, thank you so much, Zahra and Mike, for joining us from the MDP Cannabis Caucus. Hopefully we can have you on again in the future when you come on to tell us that Michael's case has been commuted, and let us know how the next case is going. Thanks again.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, Andrew.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so lastly, a little bit of national news. As I spoke about earlier, it would appear that Donald Trump's attempts to steal this election are over. He has exhausted all of his options, with Michigan certifying their results. Georgia's already done a recount. There is no path forward from here. We all knew that, but it was obvious that it was going to take a long time for Donald Trump to accept that. In my opinion, I don't even think he'll give a concession speech. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. With that being said, myself and many others made a commitment that when Joe Biden became president, we would hold him accountable. This is our opportunity. He may not have been many of our first picks. I supported Bernie Sanders. I was a Bernie Sanders delegate. I really wanted to see him as our next president. But Joe Biden is our next president. And he's a hell of a lot better than Donald Trump. But we still need to hold him accountable. He's already began filling his cabinet. Some of those positions are incredible to see. He's putting scientists on his cabinet. But he's also putting some shady characters on his cabinet. Joe Biden is by no means progressive. He is a great step in the right direction, but he's by no means progressive. And we need to hold him accountable to some of his campaign promises. We need to make sure that he knows that over half of Americans support Medicare for all. And I think this will be a lot easier with Joe Biden as president. All right, lastly, I want to give you guys a progressive highlight. At the end of every show, we want to showcase one person that we find in the state of Michigan, whether it be a local seat or on up to state representative, that we find to be an incredible progressive. Today, that highlight is Ellie Savitt. Ellie recently won his bid for Washtenaw County prosecutor. He's an incredible progressive. He even worked for the late, great Ruth Bader Ginsburg, which is just incredible. I'm jealous. But he's a great guy. He's a great progressive, and I'm sure he's going to make a great prosecutor. So congratulations, Ellie, and we're looking forward to what you accomplish. So that is it for me. This has been the Michigan Left with myself, Andrew George. Thank you so much for joining us on our very first episode. It has been a blast. I want to thank Zahra Abbas and Mike McCurdy again for joining us as our very first guests. We're hoping to have guests actually on the set in the future, and I'm looking forward to that. Maybe next summer. Who knows? Here's to crossing our fingers. Again, thank you for joining us on our very first episode of the Michigan Left. We'll see you next week, Wednesday at 11 a.m.